And so, beyond waiting for Judgment Day and some horrific event to happen, thinking about what you can do in your lifetime and what you can do with your life while you living is key. But it continues to feel as if we're wasting the best time, the right time, which is now, and we're waiting for a better time. And so, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I see it as grim for Black Americans right now. Because I would have thought by 2025, we would be in a different place. And of course, that may be naive of me, right? And we've made some progress, but, as we go into this Aquarian age, if we do not update our minds and make those shifts, at least enough of us, it don't require everybody, and that's the point. I only got 300 people in here at the moment I'm talking to. It's easier to get the attention of the masses when you are trying to give them something that isn't good for them. It's much easier. If I was just a nigga and a fool, right, and I was talking to y'all about getting bitches, you feel me, on some pimping, on some player shit, and I was just ignorant, you feel me, or I was just in here going at niggas and like, man, fuck these niggas, and we on some hoorah shit, you feel me, or I'm just clowning out, man, listen, I had a whole world in here. And that's easy to do. That's very easy to do. But it ain't worth shit. So what happens is you will look at that number, you have 3,000, 30,000, 300,000 people, but the algorithms only allow you to get that number and that attention of the masses if the program that you push is detrimental instead of beneficial. Now, don't get me wrong. We find keys and ways around it. I found ways around it many times, and I'm going to navigate 2025 with mastery from what I've learned. We rise above it like the mothership. You feel me? Like, we're going to figure out our way every time, but it requires much harder work to get that done because also there's less resources that come along with it. So it's not that you can grow it. And then when you start to develop resources, they send your own to hate on you because that's always been the program in America. How can we hate on growing Black minds of benefit that start to collect resources? How can we try to damage their reputation, right, in the eyes of their own people so it decreases their influence? That is literally have always been the goal. And so when we allow that to happen, all we're doing is going to our own descent. But it's so effective because we don't actually want to see each other more successful than us. You get $1 billion, you got too many millions, right? We think that all your wealth should go to fixing the problem of Black America as if part of the issue is our lack of resources for the next generation. So we can't even preserve wealth because we judge those who preserve wealth very well for their next generation. So we would then cut you off and try to bring you down from passing down assets into the future for that next generation, even though we banner the idea of it all day. Generational wealth. This Black power, economics, Black Wall Street. But if somebody actually does that and they become successful at it and they're doing it for the long term, we first want to tear them down. And they do that through multiple means, which is why I'm not going to be a party of a train of others tearing us down. I'm just not, because I've seen too much of it in my lifetime. And I know that you may think that this is some type of justice, but that's not how it works at war. And if you don't know that you're at war, and there's different rules in wartime, and when you're taking pieces off the board because you believe that you have some moral compass that justifies it, not realizing your enemy. Your enemy is far worse than your brother ever will be. You have to remember that. You never take a piece off the board that you can still move for you. You never. But they get you swept up in trends and narrative and crowd minds, and you think that you're doing something. But anytime you're a part of a trend, it just makes you a fool. Anytime you're a part of the crowd, what the crowd are saying and agreeing to, you're a part of a psychological operation to manipulate a mass amount of people to go in the direction in which they want them to. They create opposition, control that opposition, so that things never get out of their control, because they realize they don't have resistance to them, then there may be an organic and natural resistance that builds up and swells in a way that actually can challenge the power. So then they put somebody in position to be the opposition. And a lot of times it's not even, this person doesn't even know they're being controlled, but they're giving them rewards, they're giving them awards, they're giving them validation and vindication and every other thing that they can do. And this person feels beholden that, damn, if I make this move, I'm going to mess up this sponsor. If I do this, now I have bills over here. So now I can't say this. Well, now I can't stand next to this person because they'll mess up my relationship with this. You didn't start off with the intent of being controlled, but you can control by the web that you're connected to. So unless you can stand on your own as a man with ownership, then anything that you own then controls you. So no matter what, so many fall into the plot. So many fall into, right, the same trap over and 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 over. So anyway, I digress. I know y'all want to hear me preaching on this Christmas day. Y'all want to go enjoy some eggnog and wear your ugly sweaters. And go, at least, I hope y'all at least got a black Santa. That gotta be the least. I can't respect you if you got a black Santa or a white Jesus at all. There's no reason for a black person. Don't be giving me that shit. Color don't matter. It is the biggest lie. Color absolutely matters. Because if I can't see myself in God, then how can I see myself as being godly? Only black people say that. I ain't never went to a white household in my life, a white church in my life, and they got a black Jesus in there. If I did, I'd probably stay. We only say that to justify our lack of power. That's all. It matters 100%. That your father looks like you. It matters. It's a reason why they create cartoons and movies and they depict themselves as gods. Because it matters. They just had a report that came out about how there was a wasteful $1 trillion spending and 20 million of it was to create to send a Sesame Street program to Iraq to promote inclusivity and diversity and all these other things. They literally utilize programming as a psychological operation to impression the people whenever they want something to happen. And you don't even realize how many of your car, I was talking about this earlier. I say Teletubbies. Teletubbies was a psyop. It was an LGBT psyop. I ain't grew up in the Teletubby generation. You know, some of my younger brothers done watched it. No disrespect to them. I ain't understand the Teletubbies. You know, I grew up on Dragon Ball Z, and they got Teletubbies. It was a shift. That was the generational shift. It was preparing them for Drake. I know what was going on. Y'all watch Teletubbies. I know Teletubbies were miniature gay midgets that were, and it was a bunch of Mexicans in bodysuits just making little noises. Think about how vastly different Teletubbies and Dragon Ball Z. If you the Teletubby generation, it's a reason I can't relate to you, B. You grew up in the Teletubby world. I grew up. No, blood. My mom said stop cursing. So, alright. So look, we had Barney. But I always thought that Chuck E. Cheese and Barney was cousins. So when I first went to Chuck E. Cheese, I punched Barney. I punched him. You know what I'm saying? That was my natural reaction. I was offended by Barney. All this laughing, all this, I ain't got time for all of that. No, we not stopping the occult references. No, we not stopping that. Oh my God. I'm just saying, man. You got a point there, Blue Pill. You got a point. We did have a little Barney going on in the house, in the household. But I always thought it was something wrong with Barney too. You know what I'm saying? Because when like I said, when I first got the opportunity, I punched Barney. I ain't gonna lie, one time I punched Chucky and he punched me back. I said, damn, Chucky punches back? I'm in there. That boy Chucky done hit me back. Oh, man. But nah, Barney, yeah, then we found out Barney was sick just like Jared with the subways. The whole childhood was a lie. You know what I'm saying? So I think Teletubbies was worse than Barney. Now, here's the thing. When I went to Japan, I realized that Japan built their anime and all their cartoons, they usually have the Bushido in it, the wisdom of the samurais. 200 years worth of wisdom of the samurais. Barney wasn't set up for the Power Rangers. The Power Rangers was actually a Japanese cartoon, and they just dubbed over English and made an English version of it. I didn't know that. I thought we made the Power Rangers. But looking back, it makes sense. Now, of course, they Americanized it, right? But the Power Rangers was literally a ripoff. You know what I mean? And they just gave us an American version of it. They just gave us an American version of it. So we can't even contribute any lessons from that. Because I ain't gonna lie, the Green Ranger and the White Ranger they was cold with it. The Black Ranger, he was alright. It was only because he was black, but he wasn't, if we all being honest, he wasn't the favorite, right? Now, Dragon Ball Z and the Japanese cartoons, they would always have Bushido lessons of the samurai and wisdom, because they utilize the cartoons to shape their culture and what they want the people to believe in. So when you watch anime, you're going to see all this wisdom in there, and you're like, damn, these anime creators is intelligent. But that's because they make sure that they're programming their culture, right? And the ways of their culture through the cartoons, through the anime, right? And they do it in their movies. They do it in their music. They do it in everything. So you're literally encased in the culture. So that's all you know. Now, if you shift that and you compare that to Black American culture, we justify hip hop by saying it's a reflection of what we see, right? I get it, right? We grew up, we see these things, we grew up in these environments. So therefore, when we rapping about what we see, not realizing that we're creating more of that culture. So when you in Japan and you looking at how they utilize even their cartoons and all of their movies to consistently program you into the philosophy of the ideas of the culture, how men supposed to be with women, how women supposed to be with men, how a man supposed to have a warrior side and a peaceful side. Like, all of these things are inherently pushed into the programming, right, of it. So, we're not intentional enough, because there's not a collective of saying that, all right, when we do music over the next 10 years, this is the program we want to push in this generation. So therefore, anybody can make music, right? not realizing that when anybody make it, it has the same power, right? So when you push out something positive or you push out something negative, what end up ruling is what people hear more consistently. So it doesn't matter if there's some positive and some negative, because what end up becoming the narrative is what's the most dominant programming. So if all you hear, if you hear 80% negative and only 20% positive, the positive will never be enough to create a culture. It has to always be the dominant in order for that to become the rule. Right? So the way they do it in theirs, they make sure that everything, it dominates throughout the culture so they can maintain this way of life and this way of living. But they also had to go through a period of economic stagnation. And to me, that's so powerful because they had to basically put people over profit in order to create a culture. But we put profit over people in our culture. So, and even the people put profit over themselves because we would justify our favorite artists by their numbers. But they making money though. Right? But they making money though. It don't matter if they giving something good for us. So, therefore, you can't actually have any progress within a culture that's always justified by profits. It ain't people-centered, B. It ain't supposed to do nothing good for you.